Voyager 2 has been sailing through the darkness, humanity's messenger to the stars, carrying a golden record meant for civilizations we may never meet. It has drifted farther than any machine before it, never once turning its gaze back, never breaking from its steady trajectory into interstellar space. But now, something unthinkable has happened. For the first time in its long journey, Voyager 2 has shifted, almost as if compelled to turn back. And what triggered this impossible maneuver wasn't random static or a failing system. It was something else. Something the probe detected at the very edge of our awareness. An object from beyond known as 3I Atlas. An interstellar visitor whose behavior has already unsettled astronomers, whose signals have rattled Earth, and whose presence may have just forced Voyager 2 to do the one thing it was never designed to do: look back. Voyager 2's systems had been quiet, stable, and predictable for years. Its instruments continued to send faint whispers across billions of kilometers, reports of plasma waves, cosmic rays, and interstellar winds. But then, an anomaly appeared. Sharp spikes in radiation, rhythmic fluctuations in the magnetic field, patterns too regular to be dismissed as noise. NASA engineers were stunned when the probe, without any command from Earth, adjusted its orientation by fractions of a degree. To casual observers, it was a trivial movement. But to scientists who know the spacecraft's design, it was impossible. Voyager 2 has no reason to turn itself. It only responds to commands sent from Earth, and those take more than 18 hours to arrive. Yet, the adjustment happened in perfect synchrony with Atlas's latest pulses, as if the probe were responding not to us, but to the object itself. The suggestion was chilling. Voyager 2 wasn't malfunctioning. It was reacting. As engineers reviewed the probe's telemetry, they noticed something far stranger. Embedded within the data were signals that didn't belong. Low-frequency modulations that mirrored the pulse patterns already detected from 3I Atlas. It was as though Voyager had become a receiver, catching echoes of the interstellar visitor and relaying them back to Earth. The golden record was supposed to carry our message outward, but now Voyager was carrying a message inward, one not of our making. Some analysts described it as resonance, others as interference. But the timing was undeniable. Every time Atlas emitted its emerald glow, Voyager's instruments picked up matching rhythms and responded with its subtle shifts in orientation. A machine that had drifted silently into the void for decades was suddenly acting like a messenger in reverse, as if caught in a dialogue between Earth and something beyond. For those who studied the data, it felt less like malfunction and more like communication. The anomaly didn't stop with Voyager 2. Soon, Earth's deep space communication network began experiencing disruptions every time the probe transmitted its data. Antennas in California, Spain, and Australia reported unexpected static bursts that grew stronger as they decoded Voyager signals. The interference wasn't random. It carried structure hidden in spirals and prime numbers, patterns eerily identical to those already associated with Atlas. And yet, these were not direct transmissions from the object. They were embedded in Voyager's voice, piggybacking on its faint carrier wave like whispers riding on top of a shout. The probe was not just detecting Atlas. It was transmitting part of it, intentionally or not, turning into a conduit for a signal humanity never asked for. Engineers scrambled to filter the noise. But every attempt revealed new layers, new sequences, and new fragments of something that felt disturbingly like a message. For the first time, humanity wasn't just hearing Voyager. We were hearing something speaking through it. Then came the most unsettling revelation. An analysis of Voyager's trajectory revealed that the probe had made a correction that could not be explained by random drift, solar wind, or equipment failure. Its orientation now aligned not with Earth, not with its original flight path, but with the precise coordinates of 3I Atlas. A spacecraft billions of kilometers from home had turned itself toward an interstellar visitor, as though acknowledging its presence, as though listening. NASA remained silent, releasing no official statement, but leaked reports spoke of unease, even fear within the agency. Voyager had no reason to do this. No programming to guide it. And yet, For the first time in human history, one of our machines in the void had broken its silence, not because of us, but because of something out there. And if Voyager 2 had turned back to face Atlas, then perhaps it was no longer just our messenger. Perhaps it had become theirs. Not long after Voyager 2's unexplained reorientation, Earth's Deep Space Network intercepted a transmission unlike any in its archives. The data came through Voyager's usual channel. Yet, when decoded, it contained packets that the spacecraft was never programmed to send. Instead of telemetry, the feed carried repeating tones, oscillating in patterns that matched Atlas's glowing pulses. At first, engineers suspected signal contamination, cosmic rays, or corrupted code. But the sequence was too deliberate. It repeated in prime numbers, then shifted into ratios that mirrored the Fibonacci sequence. Voyager 2 had never been capable of generating such structured signals. And yet, here they were, wrapped inside its faint whispers from billions of kilometers away. To many, it felt as though Voyager was no longer a passive tool. It had become a relay, hijacked to carry a message from something that understood far more about us than we could imagine. Just as the strange patterns began to draw attention, Voyager 2 fell eerily silent. Its transmissions, which had remained steady for decades, dropped to nothing. Antennas pointed at its last known coordinates received only static, empty noise from the void. NASA issued a brief statement about signal loss due to orientation drift, but those who studied the anomaly knew better. Voyager had just aligned itself with Atlas. For it to suddenly go dark felt less like malfunction and more like withdrawal. Independent radio operators across the globe claimed they still picked up faint pulses in the background, but they didn't match the spacecraft's normal frequency. Instead, they aligned with the harmonics of Atlas, as though Voyager had switched channels entirely, no longer speaking to us, but to something else. Humanity's oldest interstellar messenger, launched to tell our story to the stars, had seemingly chosen or been forced to change allegiance. While Voyager remained silent, its absence was anything but quiet on Earth. Radio telescopes listening for its faint signal began experiencing unexplained disruptions. Their sensors flooded with bursts of static that seemed to originate not from space, but from within their own systems. Computers froze, servers crashed, and when data was recovered, analysts found traces of the same spirals and number sequences buried in the noise. Even more bizarre, civilian devices began to register anomalies. Amateur radio operators picked up the same tones. In some regions, even home Wi-Fi networks reported unexplained interference during the precise intervals when Voyager's transmissions should have been arriving. It was as if the props link with Atlas had bled into our own technologies, hijacking the infrastructure we use daily. For the first time, humanity felt the resonance not as distant whispers from space, but as disruptions in our own machines, our own lives. Astronomers monitoring Atlas's trajectory soon uncovered a chilling correlation. The interstellar object's pulses grew stronger exactly at the moments Voyager 2's signals went silent, as though the two were now locked in synchronization. When the data was overlaid, the connection became undeniable. Voyager's orientation pointed precisely at Atlas during every anomaly, and Atlas's glow flared in exact response. It was no longer possible to dismiss this as coincidence. An object from beyond the stars had reached across billions of kilometers and taken hold of our most distant machine, turning it into something else. A receiver, a transmitter, perhaps even an accomplice. NASA withheld comment, but within leaked documents, one phrase appeared again and again: Voyager has been retasked. If that is true, then the chilling question remains. Retasked by whom and for what purpose? When analysts dug deeper into Voyager 2's most recent transmissions, they uncovered something that sent chills through the scientific community. Within the faint static, fragments of audio embedded in the probe's golden record began to appear. Not as a replay from Earth's archives, but as though the spacecraft itself was transmitting snippets of the record back to us. Whale songs, greetings in dozens of languages, and even faint traces of the music encoded on the disk were detected in bursts layered into the anomalous signal. But here was the unsettling part. They weren't perfect copies. They were distorted, restructured, laced with harmonic overlays that matched Atlas's pulses. It was as if Voyager wasn't just replaying humanity's message. It was remixing it, adapting it into a new language. A language not for us, but for something else listening in the dark. The very message we sent out to the stars seemed to have been seized, reshaped, and echoed back as part of a dialogue we no longer controlled. Just when the world thought Voyager2's anomaly was isolated, a disturbing new detail emerged. Voyager1, its twin further out in interstellar space, began to exhibit subtle irregularities as well. Though weaker and less pronounced, its data carried faint hints of the same harmonic distortions. Engineers initially thought this was bleed over from ground systems, but the timing betrayed a different truth. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 were pulsing in unison, like two instruments playing the same hidden chord. And when astronomers aligned the vectors, they saw something extraordinary. Both probes were now oriented toward 3I Atlas, despite being billions of kilometers apart and on entirely different trajectories. Two spacecraft, separated by vast gulfs of space and launched decades earlier, had silently aligned themselves with the same interstellar visitor. It was no longer one machine responding in isolation. It was both, as if caught in a pact, as if bound by an unseen command that reached across the void and bent them into harmony. So we are left with a terrifying truth. Voyager 2 has turned back. Voyager 1 has joined it. And together they have answered the call of 3I Atlas. The question now is no longer if they belong to us. It is what they belong to and what that presence intends to do with the messengers we once sent into the dark. Because when our own machines turn their gaze away from Earth and toward an interstellar visitor, it is no longer just the universe watching us. It is the universe speaking back.